I'm Megan Sienna Doige, author of Urban Fantasy and Urban Fantasy Romance, Why Choose Edition. If you're new to my books, start with the first book in the Dowser series, Cupcakes, Trinkets, and Other Deadly Magic. My latest release is Awry, the first book in the new Conduit World universe. I am exceedingly chuffed that one of my favorite urban fantasy authors, Hailey Edwards, agreed to be our very first guest on A Conversation in a Hot Chocolate. We're specifically discussing the first book in her beginner's guide to necromancy, How to Save an Undead Life. Though I could have picked any of her first books in series, all of which topped my favorites list. Hailey Edwards. Hailey Edwards writes about questionable applications of otherwise perfectly good magic, the transformative power of love, the family you choose for yourself, and blowing stuff up. Not necessarily all at once. That could get messy. Hi, Hailey. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Okay, so first things first, and some of the Zoom participants have already got started on this, but well, let's talk about our treats, because, you know, it's me. So I have a dark hot chocolate in my mug, and one of my, although Michael helpfully put it into 3 pieces for me, one of my migraine-inducing but always delectable brownies as my treat. And you, Hailey?
It is so hot here, I could not go for hot chocolate or anything hot. So I made candied bacon. One of my favorites. I feel like my readers will understand.
Oh yeah, that's amazing. That's so cool. That's so cool. Okay. So we're gonna start with a quick and dirty round of Hailey's favorite things to get to know each other. Hailey, feel free to elaborate, but otherwise, let's see how many. Ashton's gonna cut us off at a certain point here, so let's see how many we can get through. Okay. Favorite book?
Oh, anything by Patricia Briggs.
Favorite series?
Oh my gosh, Mercy Thompson, because I'm reading it right now.
Nice. Favorite author?
Oh yeah, Patricia Briggs. I have such a crush on her.
She's pretty amazing. Oh my goodness. I mean, don't know her personally, but I love all her books. So I all your.
I stalk her from afar.
Okay. Favorite food?
Any kind of Chinese food, honestly.
We should have gone for Chinese when you came to Vancouver.
I know. I needed to stay longer. There's so much stuff we didn't get to do.
It's so true. It's so true. Okay, favorite
so much
dessert.
that didn't get eaten.
Oh, so much that didn't get
brownies.
Eaten. Brownies. There you go. Favorite drink?
Ooh, I don't know. Maybe even hot chocolate. Really do love hot chocolate.
Favorite TV show?
Right now I'm watching Bridgerton, if that helps.
Mm-hmm. Favorite movie?
Oh man, that one's harder. Oh my gosh. Maybe Pride and Prejudice, because I've watched like all of those iterations over and over and over. It's like a comfort watch, so
every single version of Pride and Prejudice.
Oh yes, I have them all.
So do I.
It's like having a bad day. Let's just watch this. It'll make it better.
Oh my god, so much so. Yeah, that's crazy. Look at all the things we have in common that we didn't know about. Okay.
I know.
Okay. Favorite thing to do outside of writing?
Anything that's DIY. I love building, and building is a lot better than the painting and sanding that comes after building. But yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Okay. What's your soul fuel? What feeds you creatively?
I would say reading other authors. I mean, that's still my number one hobby. I still read, a few hours every single day because, I just love books. So
Favorite color?
purple, that was easy.
Favorite animal? I think we might.
Oh yes, dogs.
Favorite flower?
Probably roses.
Oh, yeah. Hailey has beautiful pictures of roses, all flowers, but lots of beautiful pictures of roses all over her social feeds if it ever interests you. Favorite season?
Fall, definitely.
Oh yeah, you and me, baby. Favorite weather?
Rainy. Anything that's like overcast and raining, I mean, it's fabulous.
Nice.
Don't get it enough down here.
Favorite city?
That's another tough one. I would have to say my hometown just because like all of my family lives within a mile of each other there.
Oh, I love that.
So
Oh, I love that. I
yeah.
love that. And then favorite vacation spot as a
Right now it's Maine because I love the rocky beaches, but now that I've been to Vancouver, it is so gorgeous up there.
it is.
Definitely have to go back.
Do you have a charity or a cause that's like really important to you? Something that really speaks to you?
I donate a lot to our local animal shelters and to some of the charities that deal with veterinary medicine, helping with combating mental illness because it's tough being in that field. So
Okay, let's get serious now. You ready?
I don't know.
Okay. You're like, oh my God, Megan, what the hell? I thought we were keeping this light and sweet. All right. So we're specifically talking about this amazing book and amazing series. What intrigues me about your books, about your writing style in general, and most definitely in the Beginner's Guide to Necromancy, is how playfully dense it is. Like, you don't really bother setting the scene. You drop your reader in the middle of things. In the case of How to Save an Undead Life, in the aftermath of one of Greer's nightmares. And then you allow the visual and the little tidbits of the background story to unfold in the midst of action with constant forward momentum, which lends itself to an unrelenting pace and a feeling like anything could happen at any time. Yet even amidst all of this, when shadowed or foreboding, your story is still infused with humor. The combination makes your books addictive. Like, I want to gobble them up. Even when I reread How to Save an Undead Life in prep for this conversation, and of course I've read the entire series, I had to stop myself from starting book 2. I'm like, oh, that's where this one ends. Oh, right. Because of course I know the series, but I didn't know the stopping point. And of course I've already read it, and I was still, really sucked in. So my question is, I do have a question. Is this you, this laughing in the face of all the painful things we suffer in life? Is it your fundamental voice, your beliefs, your outlook that fuels your story? Or is this a rhythm, a cadence that you found yourself naturally developing when giving voice to your characters, bringing your story to life?
I think it is probably a 50-50 split. We laugh a lot in my house. We're always cracking up about something, and that carries over even, into the bad times because humor can really save you. And so it kind of feels natural that my characters would resort to dealing with their problems in the same way.
Yeah, it's very addictive. I love it. But then I believe that life is generally a very dark and hard place, and so you have to you have to find the light where. So maybe that's why it appeals to me so much. Okay, so let's talk about the role of food in your books, and specifically in the beginner's guide to necromancy, because it's interesting to me. And obviously the very first sort of hit on this is the apple, right? The Honeycrisp apple, which of course represents, and I imagine in reread, I probably got this even more, but like has such a huge representational thing, and Greer biting into it and the juice running down her arm and her licking it up, like she can't waste a drop of this. And of course, at that point, we don't totally know what's happened to her, but like this is this amazing sort of insight into who Greer is and where she is at in her life. God, I'm answering the question. Let's talk about the role of food in your books, because you use it not just in this series, but in all your series. Why do you use food the way you do?
There is some symbolism, but honestly, I also just really love food. When we travel, we plan kind of around places that we want to go eat. So it's something that I'm just, I guess I grew up watching all the cooking shows and always in the kitchen baking and trying things. So, and being Southern, I'm sure is a lot of it as well, because, if someone's had a bad day, you feed them. If someone doesn't feel well, you feed them. Anything that's going on can be fixed with the right combination of food down here. So, I think it's hardwired into me.
Oh, so that's very interesting. You feel like that's a very Southern thing.
Very much. We definitely, like I said, no matter what's wrong with you, there is some form of food we can give you to fix it. That is kind of the belief. Whether it's true or not, I don't know, but I mean, we'll try.
Yeah, so food is medicine, which of course it's obviously that apple for Greer is, I mean, more than that, but so much going on into that one moment. Okay, so let's talk about the role of the supernatural in your books.
Okay.
Why do you lean towards writing fantasy and paranormal? What does the supernatural bring to the story for you? Like, why this genre? Why are you writing mostly in a supernatural genre?
I love mythology and folklore, and it just seems natural for me anytime I sit down to write. That's just kind of where my brain goes. So, I don't fight it. I just kind of go along with it because it's what I love to read and I enjoy writing it. So,
It's interesting.
It's my brain's fault.
blame your mind. That's always a good
right.
writer. Yeah. I can't do anything about it. It's the way my head works. Yeah. Okay. Have you ever pulled something, a situation, an experience directly from your life that was incorporated into this book or this series? Like a favorite thing or something that happened to you or a family friend or
Not necessarily that series. I typically don't, consciously draw from people that I know or situations in my life. But in the Black Dog series, that heroine's best friend, 100% based on my best friend, who is nothing but trouble. So if you read that series and you're reading about all her little antics, just know a lot of the things that she says are like direct from my friend Sasha's mouth. I mean, it's crazy.
Nice. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the Discord questions, and then and I think we're doing okay for time. And then hopefully we can get to some of the questions that are in the chat here as well. But we had a bunch of questions that were posted ahead of time in the Discord. One, where do you find your inspiration for new characters?
I'm a pantser. So they just kind of pop in one day and they're like, hey, I'm here. Are we going to do this? And, as soon as I wrap up a new series or an old series and get ready to start a new series, the characters just kind of reveal themselves as I get going. It's not something I sit down and plot or think out. It just happens.
So like you could be making dinner and an idea for a character comes to you, or are you actually at your desk knowing that you want to write a new series?
Yep, actually at my desk. It's writing for me is a lot like that meme that's been floating around where you're listening to the characters and then you just write up an accident report because I hear, the voices and they just kind of spin out from there. So I don't know, but that's how it's always been for me. They just kind of,
So what does your
reveal
what does your tip
themselves.
yeah, what does your typical writing day look like for you then?
When I get up, I do 30-minute sprints. I'll write for 30 and then take off 15 because I have degenerative disc disease, so I can't sit still for very long. And I alternate like that till I hit my right goal, and then I'm out in the yard playing with the dogs and all that kind of fun stuff. But I mean, I do try to sit down every day and write and, hit those goals so that I can, better judge my schedule and what's going on.
Right, nice. But you actually getting your fingers on the keyboard every day. That's part of your process. Not that,
Yeah.
not a lot of laying it. And I'm not talking about anybody in particular here. when I say that there's other ways that people write.
It's like every day until I finish a book. It's just all consuming, I guess. I mean, I just have to sit down and kind of purge and get it out and see where it's going.
That's very super cool. Super cool. Okay, second question from the Discord from Kiki. Do the people, oh, we already kind of talked about this one. Do the people you know in real life bleed into your characters? Which we kind of already touched on that, but
Yeah, I mean, I think that you can't really help with that kind of stuff. I think some little things are going to slip through. But one thing I have made a conscious effort to do is because I'm sure you could tell I'm very southern. And my family has all of these just crazy sayings that I know are only found here in the deep, deep South. And so I will incorporate those into my books, but it's more like a catalog for me so that I won't ever forget any of them. Because, like my great grandmother, her favorite thing was if instead of cursing, because that's another thing that people ask about, is I don't curse a lot in my books, and it is a direct reflection of how I was raised because my family did not curse at all. They always had other little sayings and things. So, like my great grandmother, hers was land of Goshen. And I was like 30 years old before I realized what she was even saying, like what it meant. And it's just like that. I mean, there are all kinds of crazy sayings down here. So I'm just kind of cataloging them.
And what does it mean for West Coast Canadian me?
It is literally like the land of Goshen. It is a biblical reference. But for some reason, here it is also a curse. So they'll be like, land of Goshen. And I guess for a while I thought it was maybe even Atlantic Ocean. But, I don't know what to tell you, but it amuses me, so I put it into books so that I won't ever forget it.
That's very cool. Very cool. So poor Lisa Marie, I already asked her question, but she asked, what was your writing process like? Do you have any certain routines or must-haves with you before you start? I guess that's extra. Do you have any setup that you have to have?
I prefer to work. I know I'm a little weird because I do prefer to work in my office at my computer, and it is a desktop. And I like having my split keyboard and my ergonomic setup to, minimize finger and wrist strain. And most of my friends will write on laptops just anywhere. And I'm like, no, my brain won't even work that way. If I have a laptop, it's like, ooh, let's watch Netflix. It's not productive at all. I had to be sitting at the desk with the keyboard, physical keyboard in front of me to have, to reach that state of mind for writing.
Interesting. Like it turns on something in your brain.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
That's super cool. That's super cool. So Lynn asks, do you hear or see the characters in your mind when you write them? And do you ever wish you could meet them? Oh, that's a double part, yeah.
Absolutely. I'm not very visual with them. I have to kind of stop and think about how they look. And I know my editors got on to me when I first started writing about, make sure these people have some idea of what your characters look like and some idea of what clothes they're wearing so they don't assume your people are just walking around naked everywhere they go and stuff like that. But I absolutely hear them. They have a certain cadence of speech, certain words they use, certain ways they think, and that is how I perceive them.
Super cool. Yeah. So Kat is asking, and I guess specifically from the Beginner's Guide to Necromancy, although I guess I should mention this is part of the Black Dog universe. So a bunch of Hailey's books, a bunch of her series are set in the same universe because it's relevant to this question, which is Kat asks, how did you come up with the magic system and were you inspired by anything specific?
Not particularly. Part of the fun, but it can also be frustrating part of being a pantser is it just happens as I'm writing. I figure everything out as it's, going into the Word document and nothing is planned before then. So I guess it's been in my head for a while, while I'm kind of thinking about it, and it just comes out when I sit down and start to work.
It's very cool. Very cool. Robin asks, what was your inspiration for the Woolworth name?
Oh, I just wanted a name that sounded Old South to me because of where it's set and because I love hearing about the history in Savannah and everything. So that was more or less where I got that name from.
Super cool. And number 7 was, how did you make the decision to start the story after Greer's incarceration?
It's another one of those things where when I was a baby writer, we were told all the time, really just hit over the head with start with action. Bring your readers into a point where it's going to be interesting and they're going to want to know what happens next. And then if you need to, you can backfill from there and say, oh, this is what we're left with. But P.S., gradually, this is what happened to get her to this point.
It's interesting to me. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, it seems like that is what I do naturally because I believe all my series are really like that.
Yeah, you start, almost all your books start exactly like that. We're in the midst of something. Yeah. Some would say in screenwriting terms, that's, at just after the inciting incident, you're starting your book. Sometimes when I write, I go back and I write some novellas or I write some of the backstory, and I actually find some of those really terrible to write. Like the idea of writing Greer and seeing her, being the incident. I don't want to spoil anything. I think if we had seen it, if it was right on page, and if that's how you tried to, bring the reader in, I think some people would bounce off it. Like, I think it would be really a harsh way also to open the book. Whereas seeing the adult Greer, the Greer that's gotten through this, I mean, she's still working through it, obviously, but she's starting the baby steps to coming out of this situation. And of course, we watched, this huge growth for her throughout the series. I think that, in a strange way, that's also more palatable to the reader, like, I think that's
I agree.
Yeah. So anyway, sorry. Bit of thought. Okay. Pink asks, when you start a book series, how many books do you have planned for the story arc? And do you have a general feeling where the next books will take you, or have it a bit more detailed?
Same thing. I typically, like when I first started writing urban fantasy, I would write in trilogy format. And now I'm more comfortable with a 5 book arc. But beyond that, it's just, whatever happens, happens.
Yeah, and to follow up with this, and Tia also said, did you know how many books in the series would be when you started book one, and did you know there'd be 3 epilogues?
No, I didn't. I wasn't sure where I would end the series, and the epilogues were definitely not on my radar until I got to the end. And people loved Greer and Linus so much that I wanted to give them kind of a send off. So that's why I
Yeah.
wrote all of those.
The first question I'll ask you is do you have a favorite thing to listen to while you're writing?
I listen to white noise,
Mhm.
or just the sound of the ocean. That's my favorite thing. But as y'all can tell, there's just a little bit of noise in my office throughout the day, just a little bit. So I need something to help block out all of that so that I can focus on work.
Like that white noise. White noise is quite lovely. Sometimes you're trying to block things.
Mhm.
All right, here's the question I'm also itchy to hear about. What gave you the idea for making the haunted house a character in the book?
It started out as just the idea of having, you know, a haunted house, because I do spend so much time, on ghost tours and listening to local lore about different houses and things that people have reported seeing in the houses. And I just kind of thought, well, what if it wasn't the ghost twitching the curtains? And what if it was actually the house? Like it had absorbed enough of this spiritual residue to become its own person. And it just kind of went from there. And as the series progressed, her role became a little different than I had imagined it would be.
I love that. It was one of the things I think that stood out to me as well when I first started reading those books, was how much I also loved the house, and like also kind of wanted one for myself. That's so cool. This one you kind of touched on a little bit, but maybe you'll want to add a little bit extra to it. But it was a question about how much your characters evolve over the series, and the question was, does it surprise you sometimes, their evolution?
Absolutely. Because, like I said, I kind of start from a blank slate. I don't plan anything. So, as the series and as books progress, things that they do can really surprise me, because I'm like, are you sure you want to do that? And they seem pretty certain it's the way to go. So, you know, it's as surprising for me as it is for y'all most of the time.
But what do you think about your audiobooks, and do the narrators sound how the characters sound to you?
uh, I am grateful to have audiobook editions of everything, or to have it, in progress, because I know a lot of people really need the audiobooks to be able to squeeze reading into their daily schedules. But I cannot listen to my own audiobooks. I don't know I don't know what the disconnect is for me, but I like to actually read versus listen to them. And I think a lot of that comes from the fact that I do hear my characters talking to me while I'm writing, and I'm just so used to their cadence of speech and how they, phrase things and say things, that it's just kind of jarring to have someone else narrate their thoughts and everything. So I know I'm a weirdo.
I could only imagine. But thank you. Those were the questions from the room. So
All right. Hailey, what are you currently working on? What's your next release? And where's the best place for readers to find you?
I am working on Amber Gambler, which is the second in the Body Shop series. And I am probably most active in my Facebook reader group. I'm there a couple times a day.
We've got Maria Vale with her book The Last Wolf joining us next month. So
Nice.
Maria will thank you. We'll probably thank you for ironing out some of the wrinkles. Let's call them wrinkles in this. But thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us. And I'm pretty sure we all look very much forward to digging further into The Beginner's Guide to Necromancy and gobbling up your new books as you release them. Thank you so much to everybody, and let's do it again next month. Thanks, Hailey.
Thank you.